Hello, everybody. It's Monday. See if we can get just
Yay.
Yay. Hi, Andrew.
Hello. Hello.
Ooh. And I think that looks like Justin Robert Young.
Yo. Hello, everybody.
Brian just went to go get a drink, so he'll be right back. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mondays.
I'm leaving.
That classic day of the week. Monday. How you doing, Justin?
Man, you want to know what I'm doing? I'm enjoying every second of Pigskin Bryce.
I signed up for the Sling TV 1 week trial so I could get Pac-12 to watch that game on Saturday.
So, I made a comment because Bryce kept bringing up these oh, you want to know what's great on Netflix? Like Last Chance U. And you want to know what I've been doing? I've been watching these great documentaries about college football and stuff like that. And I'm like, Bryce, can you just come out of the closet as a football fan and just go all in and embrace this? And I kind of said it sort of half joking, but now Bryce is on my Twitter among the most avid, because we randomly, I was like, oh, I'm going to give you a college program that seems to fit your general interests. And we just happened upon the Oregon Ducks.
Uh-huh.
Now you are like and by the way, I follow college football accounts that cover Syracuse or the ACC or whatever.
Yeah.
I still follow a lot of South Florida people that talk a lot about that.
Mm-hmm.
You are right there. Right there on a Saturday afternoon, Bryce is unironically tweeting about plays and happenings. It is such an amazing, fun surprise, and it delights me.
Yeah, I tweeted this out the other day, but I'm considering finding an NFL team so I can have something to do on Sunday nights. Hey, Brian.
That's an interesting thing, is when you come to the NFL with no preconceived notions, no tribe, you're basically shopping for an identity based on the stories around what team you want to make, your emotionally adopted team. That's really interesting.
Yeah. And I don't know it's going to be as bad because, Bryce, as I'm sure you found out, there are no friends in college football. There are tribes. So Bryce literally, I just said, I'm going to pick for you a college team like I would pick for you a band or a movie that you might like. Just based on your previous history, you might like the Oregon Ducks. And knowing that, there were even chat room. It was a topic of conversation the first night of Dragon Con of people being like, why didn't he pick my team? Or I also Sunbuns, I'm a USC grad.
Yeah.
Screw the Ducks. He picked the wrong Pac-12 team.
USC's very good. I think Sunbun's coming down this weekend I think he wanted to go see the UT USC game on Saturday, but I think that might be at the same time as the Simpsons podcast. So I think we're going to that.
Oh, speaking of which, I gotta pick. I need your help, Justin, to pick a Simpsons episode.
I don't know if you saw it. They sent a nice list of a bunch of.
Oh, great.
I emailed it to you yesterday.
Okay.
Or the day before.
Yeah. Sorry,
Right.
I
May
definitely.
I humbly suggest to Auburn, just check out these fans.
Oh sure.
Oh,
Okay.
just-
Some.
my
co-eds.
nieces, they were on TV.
Oh,
Those are your
that's
nieces?
adorable.
Oh, that's
Yeah. They're all dressed
Man.
up in their Auburn gear and made
I
it
am
on
so
TV.
glad. What's funny is you did that. I was like, okay, we get it, Andrew. They're attractive ladies who are fans of Auburn. That's a weird thing.
Children.
And now then I heard the word nieces, and I was like, glad that did come up organically.
Striker Rich asks what the coaches poll is going to look like this week.
It's like you've been waiting your whole life.
What's up?
Hey, Justin, I got a question for you.
Yeah, keep asking it. I can hear it.
Okay.
Go on.
So we went to a jazz club yesterday to shoot The Modern Rogue, and this place, number one, is something that I've only seen in movies. Is a real jazz club with excellent lighting, incredible acoustics. Like, this place was designed from the ground up by a jazz saxophonist and it's his place, it's his baby. You could tell he put his whole life into it, and presentation is presentation and quality of sound is absolutely key. He knew enough about the internet and the niche of jazz to install these amazing remotely operated 4K cameras everywhere. And right now, and he knows enough to make sure to record every set of the jazz musicians there. It looks like Austin City Limits on there, the presentation.
Oh,
and,
awesome.
And but right now he's like the first words out of his mouth are like, I know I could do something on the internet, but I got to know how to monetize it. And then and so I gave him, the condensed story of what we do. Look, first you build a clubhouse, then you attract people, then you figure out a way to let them give you money for, all the value that they've received and all that stuff. And the more he heard, and then when he saw Patreon numbers and all that stuff, his eyes got wider and wider. But it occurred to me as I was explaining Twitch to him, like, is anybody dominating? Is there a number one clubhouse for jazz on Twitch? Because this place, like, constantly different jazz groups coming in. So it's always different. The presentation is top-notch, top quality. And if they could virtualize what they're doing in Austin, Texas, like, it's early enough in the Land Rush days that they could be the global dominant best clubhouse for jazz night after night after night.
Well, I think it's like this. Twitch did not become a gigantic video game source because Twitch did anything. Twitch was very good at having a good community because all the people reading video game websites, watching video game tutorials, playing video games themselves were like, oh, no, wait. In the times when I'm not doing that, I would like a place where I could still engage and understand more fully this other stuff. So for jazz, it's like, just bring that community there and say,
right.
Hey, look,
I guess my question, and it looks like Tinvek in the chat answered it, is I'm curious if that's already an occupied niche or if that's an underserved market, because jazz people get very OCD about their jazz, and they get really into every version, every solo, every whatever.
So I think the problem with the venues doing it is in that it could affect their ability to book, in terms of like, oh, well, we can get this artist, but they don't want to be live streamed or they don't want to be recorded. And then if the venue is monetizing someone else's recording or someone else's performance, then that gets into a very sticky situation.
Well, that's
which is
the
why
crazy
I don't
part.
think a lot of venues do that. It's usually artists.
It's
doing it
already
on
in his
themselves.
standard agreement to record and do whatever he wants with every session. He's already been recording for 2 or 3 months. He just hasn't known what to do with it. So whatever that issue is, whatever that roadblock is, it sounds like he's already jumped over it and could just continue to do so as he builds out this place.
It can be one of these things that people can have a lot of reasons why it won't work, and then somebody goes and does it, and then it works. Then everybody can explain why it worked.
Should we save all this for after things? This feels like
Sure,
an after things topic.
sure, yeah.
Okay.
I guess so.
All right.
Are you guys ready to go?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. There we go. All right. Then take it away, Andrew. In 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Weird Things podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Aloha and hello-ha. Those are the 2 words. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, listen, there's a pronouncement there. Mr. Justin Robert Young.
Maloha. That's another third word.
And our super producer extraordinaire, Mr. Bryce Castillo.
Taloha, everybody.
Gentlemen, sorry to announce it's our last broadcast.
Whoa! Oh goodness, it's been a hell of a run. I've enjoyed. I assume that we're about to be exploded by the sun. That's the only reason I can imagine this show stops.
No, not the sun, Brian. Not the sun.
Oh, the moon?
No, not the moon, Brian.
The stars or the sky itself?
It might be the sky. It might be the sky or something in the skies.
Yeah. Who's got 2 thumbs and is about to explode? The sky.
Yeah.
No,
well, we don't know
okay.
what's going to explode, but man. I think the end times is when some guy in North Carolina takes a couple photos of a UFO. I mean, that's kind of it, right? And there's been a couple UFO sightings there, so.
This doesn't sound like the most unusual thing. We've seen a lot of UFO photos here on the show.
Yeah, but now's now, Brian.
Oh, now it's for reals.
So apparently, they have another alleged UFO sighting near Charlotte has appeared on Facebook. I mean, that's where we'll find out about the end times, by the way, too, is Facebook. It was posted by a husband and father who says he doesn't necessarily believe in UFOs. Way to hedge your bets. I'm not saying what I saw is a UFO, but what do you guys think?
Yeah, exactly. See, normally, I swear to God, I never do this on the first Facebook posting.
Yeah.
So the quick side journey. Do you remember? I don't know if you followed any of the press junkets that Steven Spielberg did when he did the remake of War of the Worlds, but you remember he did Close Encounters of the Third Kind in the late 70s, and then he did War of the Worlds in the early 2000s. And his attitude on the viability of whether or not it was UFOs had changed sharply. And specifically, I thought his rationale was interesting because he said back in the 1970s, there were lots of what seemed to be credible UFO flying saucer photos. And then everybody suddenly has camera phones now. So the number of cameras has gone up exponentially. So you would think that if aliens were regularly visiting us, that there would be any increase in the number of UFO photos, and instead there's absolutely not. Therefore, it's highly unlikely that we are continuing to be visited by aliens, and despite the fact that we have 10 times the number of cameras available at all times, no significant increase in the number of crazy photos.
And also that they're all so much higher quality.
Yes.
That even that anything that is caught is always just a fuzzy blue dot in the distance or some kind of formation.
Yeah.
Let me offer an alternative explanation. Let's say that we were being observed and visited, and with the increase in the availability of camera phones and camera sensors and all this, also comes an increase in the ability of military technology, sensing technology, all these sorts of things. So the ability of our government to see or to detect what's out there and to deploy countermeasures, aircraft, missiles, things like that, has increased. So perhaps these visitors have decided to keep back. Like if we were trying to observe the Russians and the Russians increase their satellite defense technology, then we would fly higher or use better measures. We've improved our planes, new stealth technologies. Have you not considered this, gentlemen?
That's actually not bad. That's a fun scenario to think of. Unfortunately, it allows for an alien race that's so sophisticated that they have intergalactic travel, and yet so unsophisticated that they don't think how these primates might be capturing photos with just light.
You're making a lot of assumptions there about who these people are. And I recall, Brian, remember when we went to go do an audition for a channel for a show, and I walked in on a discussion about UFOs. This is my favorite thinking.
I'm going to give a little backstory. This is one of those shows. They called it a chemistry test. They gathered 30 interesting people that they thought might be hosts. It was the weirdest American Idol ever because they were looking for, get ready, a skeptic and a believer to host a show for a network. And so I think that was one of the very first times we ever connected face to face, right?
Maybe
was under the microscope. Like somewhere is footage of one of the very first times Andrew and I ever hung out.
It was after Weird Things started, though. Maybe
well after Weird Things. Well after Weird Things, yeah. So I walk into the discussion, and there's the topic is like UFOs. Like, what's the explanation for UFOs? I'm like, I walk over to this like little living room suite area. I sit over on the couch. I'm like leaning in on the conversation, and somebody says, "Well, somebody says, aliens," and somebody says, "Yeah, well, they could be, interdimensional travelers." Yeah, that could be. Well, somebody says, I think they could be like, kind of like spirit, ghost, projection sort of thing. Like, yeah. And then somebody else goes, "You guys are ignoring one other possibility here." And I'm like, finally, another skeptic starting to explain this, that it's maybe none of the above. And he goes, and I'm like, just tell them. And he goes, time travelers.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Way, if you're gonna actually put your back into it, that's the best actually of all time.
Fast forward a couple years, I'm at Salt Lake City Comic Con. I'm on a Bigfoot panel, and they're talking about explanations for Bigfoot. And I go, it could be, like, I don't think it's a creature. Like, yeah, I think it's some sort of spirit sort of thing, interdimensional traveler, this, whatever. And I'm like, can I suggest a hypothesis?
Oh, so you barred. Oh, that's great. You pinched their reason. That's amazing.
Oh, no, I did. I'm like, may I suggest maybe just not real?
How did that go over?
Like, no, like, no. That I'm like, you won't even consider that. Like, no, I have too much personal experience. I'm like, somebody who hallucinates would say the same thing. And that was sort of like kind of the birth, the genesis of my idea. If you will not even consider an alternative point of view, if you're just so resistant to the idea of an alternative explanation,
yeah,
then you're not a rational person. Came from one working for the James Randi Foundation and dealing with crazy. I'm like, what sets crazy people apart? I realized every person I spoke to who was crazy said absolutely nothing could convince them otherwise. They said, I'm immune to any sort of, immune to any alternative points of view.
That really is sort of a gateway question where it's like, before we even engage, is there literally, can you conceive of something I could say, do, show, or, show you a photograph or give you evidence or tell you a sufficient story? Can you even conceive of something like that would cause you to, elevate your understanding of the situation and decide you were previously wrong? And often I feel like people, as a badge of pride, will be like, nothing will. In which case it's like, all right, and we're done. Because I'm pretty sure you could open up a door and show me a living Sasquatch who chuffs and waves and walks over and lets me smell him and then lets me take him to the university, and then the scientists figure out, oh, this is definitely a species we've never seen before. Like, at that point, I'm convinced and we're done. So I can be convinced.
If you had Bigfoot pop out of the box like that gender reveal meme from over the weekend,
I missed that.
Bryce, see if you can bring it up. I would believe in Bigfoot 100% if you brought me out to a field and there was a big box, and then all of a sudden popping out of it was just a gigantic cryptid that we've seen, the famous loping
archetype.
Strike. In fact, he did that. Yeah, if this was Bigfoot, Bigfoot just came out.
Yeah, I'm convinced. Discussion's over. You win.
Yeah, I'd be like, no, you want to know what? Hey, sorry, just trying to play it safe here. Let me spray some beer on you.
That's amazing.
Wait, he does the Fortnite dance in like a minute.
Oh, that's great. Which
watching a giant inflatable baby costume burst out of a box to reveal and do a dance, and then now it's getting spanked. This is really uncomfortable. Apparently, it's a thing now. It's
people taking gender reveal parties to just new heights.
It's like you get the teaser trailer, the trailer.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's great.
In the chat, they're saying actual Bigfoot sighting, 1964, colorized.
Yeah.
So, all right. The North Carolina, there's a Facebook posting about a UFO sighting. This is a pattern now out there?
It's like a video. It's a pattern. I sent Bryce. I've not watched this yet. I figured we'd do a live Weird Things investigation.
That's a good point.
These are photos, I believe. I don't know that these are videos. These are just photos.
There was a video on the page I sent you, Bryce. I don't know what's the video. Right?
Well, that is an unrelated video about
but let's just watch that unrelated video. That'll be fun. Let's live go to the news of whatever videos.
Let's go one at a time. So here's one of the photos that was posted to Facebook.
Oh, wow. All right. So this is, if I'm going to describe to the audio listener, the thing that is interesting about it is that it does seem like a ridge, right? It seems like an edge of something that curves.
This is so interesting because I can say some words and cause you to see this totally different instantly.
Okay.
Because right now, would you say whether it is or is not, like if somebody told you that's a UFO, you would accept that, right?
What I would say distinguishes it is normally a UFO is either a big blurry orb or like a series of orbs that you would imagine is like the underside or like the way that we think of a plane, right? This is more in a classic kind of a flat disc thing, and the coloring is like a light purple, giving it a very fashionable sci-fi, like a Blade Runner kind of look to it. But Brian, so I would say this looks more like a rounded edge or even an angular, cooler looking. This looks like a very cool modern UFO if I'm going to fill in the rest of the details with my brain.
So the context clues I am seeing is that you can see the hood of a car on the bottom part of the photo, which means, this is from the perspective of a driver, in which case looking up, okay, it is a car radio display being reflected from the windshield on there. Zoom in on that and you will see the time displayed. You will see the rounded edges of the two sides of the knobs on the left and on the right, and an LCD display in the middle. That is just straight up a car stereo system being reflected. The light's right underneath. You can see it says it's 8:11 p.m.
I'll tell you what.
But it wouldn't flip it horizontally.
Sorry, 1:18. It's 1:18 a.m.
I'm totally. Would
it be reversed then?
Yeah, it's reversed vertically. It's 1:18. So it's being flipped up end over end. So
I to me totally looks like interior reflection. Totally agree, interior reflection. As far as I understand what you're saying, how it could fit that, I'm confused by how it would get at that angle. I don't know that, but I mean, to me, I'm like, we're looking at something like the reflector from the interior of the cabin.
We have another photo.
I'm hesitant to say what though. Because I look at it, I'm like, if I held up my iPhone and I got the metal chrome edge to reflect against the window, could it look like that? And I was actually looking at my iPhone. I'm like, those are the things I'd test for.
So we have another photo here from the same Facebook post.
Oh, that does look different.
Yeah.
Now that undoes my theory that it was all that one thing.
Aha! Another skeptic destroyed by no words. Post this on r/UFOs for real.
I mean, to me, it has the dimensions of like a phone, like an iPhone or an Android or something. It could be like the reflection of like, the metal.
Yeah, I would say, a lot of modern cars have like a stock kind of track lighting that may or may not be reflecting from
that
like
does look like a cell phone though, man. It does look very rectangular. And plus also what we're seeing is a version of the Pepper's Ghost illusion, right? We have you have a lit thing being reflected by a transparent clear glass that makes it ethereally project out into a far space.
And you could have too, remember, you could have the visor with a mirror. Like that could actually, like some visors have like my Tesla has like a light inside of it. Yeah. So if you had a visor with the light on and you pulled the visor to the side, you got a glow coming from in there.
Even if you covered up like the normal inside light, if you covered up the main part and there was light leaking through, maybe it's an old unit.
But Bryce, the problem is like just the angle of that, trying to figure out why it would be angled in a weird way like that. But yeah, so here we are. We're like, well, before we start saying it's something outside the car, we're all thinking of all these things on the inside because it seems more consistent with that. Particularly like the first photo, you see right through the object. You see clouds behind it, which just means it's lights, which is against glass, and that's one of the things too. Is that I think that's a great test of how people look at things. Some people look at this and they see the photograph. What's the photograph? We see it and we go, well, there's a car, there's glass, there's all the light inside of the car and the glass. Then there's the sky, then there's whatever, and then the assumption of where the object is.
Yeah, by the way, why does the UFO get snagging all the headlines when clearly the star of the show are these mysterious orbs down at the bottom? Yeah. All of a sudden, these orbs just flying around these other cars.
On the road where I drive?
Yeah, that's crazy. You should be really upset.
Yeah, Bryce, just so you know, that link I sent you, there is a video in there of another object in the sky.
And by the way, that's half of them are red and half of them are white. This is the travel of souls from to heaven and hell.
Well, that was always funny is you'd hear these descriptions of like old UFO sightings. Oh, we saw the string of lights in the sky, and no one's flashing, and there was like a red and a green, like airplane navigation lights.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't that like that. You know, that's what they do. They have a flashing light there, and they have this light over here and a light over here. Like, no airplane. It wasn't an airplane. It's like, okay, I'm just saying that, you know, if you ever watch, it just didn't move. It's like, not airplanes move from left to right of your field of vision. Some come towards you. Some
Which,
go
by the
away
way,
from you.
I will vouch for the illusion of an airplane looking like a UFO when it's headed straight towards you.
Oh,
because
yeah.
because looking straight on, you've got the wings look like the sides of the flying saucer. The fuselage in the middle looks like that prototypical bulbous thing at the end, or in the middle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It can be very suspicious. Yeah. So, Bryce, the one I have had some UFO channel had some video of the similar things, which just kind of looked like something with lights.
I'm on the same link as you are, so
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know what video comes up, so I'm sorry. I can't control that.
I want to show your video, and I'm not seeing video.
All right.
But I'll tell you what, man, we solved the hell out of that one video. Yeah, that was really a photo. It's
Well,
a video 1/24 of a second long.
I do think that there is, and this is kind of gets to the heart. This is like the canonical weird things point is that the fault for us, if there is one, is never in wanting to believe or being sucked in by the moment. Because I think that we are all we embrace the idea that, hey, look, in that moment when you look up in the sky and see something weird, that's it not only is it something that we can all understand, but it's seductive. It's fun. Like that is kind of why we do this show, is that we want it to be real. In fact, our next steps are all about making sure we don't fall for fool's gold, that the one day that we do look up in the sky and see a UFO, the one day that Bigfoot does run out of the gender reveal box and makes himself known to humankind, that we know for sure that we have seen the genuine article.
Muted myself there. What's interesting too is, Brian, you brought up Close Encounters, and a friend of mine, Paul Hynek, his father was the Hynek who put together the whole report for the Project Blue Book.
Oh, wow.
And there's actually a J. Allen Hynek, and he's actually does a cameo in Close Encounters, whatnot. There's actually a movie coming out about our TV series, I think, on A&E about that, about the whole like that. And I've talked to Paul a little bit about this, because that and what his father's beliefs were and what Paul's beliefs are, and his thinking. He says there's so much evidence of something strange and whatever going on, and the Air Force just wanted to open shut, wanted to be able to sort of just say, hey, there's nothing there. We've solved it, whatever kind of thing. And I'm the skeptic, and I'm like, all right, but it is interesting when you talk to somebody who is very convinced and was in a position to observe something interesting. I talked to a guy who flew chase planes for SR-71s, and this guy talked about, intercepts at high altitudes and stuff and all this, and it's compelling stuff. And then I talked to somebody like James Oberg, or somebody who's an expert in investigating these things, and they give you a very good, well, here's the problem. They couldn't visually see this. They're going upon radar or whatever, and if they were trying to respond to, let's say, a high altitude weather balloon at this altitude, which are a real thing, they wouldn't necessarily know, how the distance was, and those things can move. You get things too, like those things can move faster than planes because they're in a much higher altitude stuff. You just get all these other things as you go. Like, you have one set of facts, like, wow, this is crazy, I have no explanation for it, and somebody else says, well, objects in the stratosphere move faster because of blank, and there's this. You're like, oh, I didn't know that. And then it's like, so I'm really not prepared to come to any conclusions about any of this.
Plus, also, keep in mind that there's no divorcing the height of the UFO phenomenon from the height of the Cold War. And that is a time where disinformation was a very valuable tool. And if some people organically seem to think that the United States may have captured an alien spacecraft and have supernatural gift. Along the way, of course, they're doing all this crazy stuff, like they're throwing dummies out of planes at 30,000 feet just to see what happens. And some of them they're not going to find. Other people are going to stumble across it. But it seems like the strongest military tactical take would be like, good, let everybody think that we definitely have captured an alien spacecraft and we're definitely harvesting all of these amazing future technologies that will defeat the Russians.
And also beyond that, we definitely have literally no comment on anything that we are doing that in any way would give us, give away what we are working on or what we're doing. Or
well, that goes back to Roswell, which Project Mogul, about the balloon train, which was at the time, like, hey, UFO, Air Force, like, yeah, flying saucers, sounds great. What else? Like, it was like 1949 or whatever when that came out, and it was this sort of like the Air Force seemed to be tacit in saying, oh yeah, it's UFO, then nobody said anything about it, and that just fueled so many conspiracy theories to this day about Roswell. Later on, Freedom of Information Act, looking back into it, we find out that what we had was there was a government project to use this high-tech material, Mylar, to build balloons with microphones to put them high up in the atmosphere to listen in on atomic explosions in Russia, because at that altitude you get this convection layer in which sounds travel really, really far around the world. And this was a listening technology pre-satellite, and it made a lot of sense. And so does the Air Force, does the military want to say, hey, we've developed the capability to listen to your explosions, or like, yeah, UFO, yeah, sure, that's it. Anything is better than the truth.
Plus, also, Mylar was a new polymer technology in the 1940s. And so imagine if somebody described Mylar who's never seen it. It's like, it was this weird, super lightweight, malleable, metal-like. It had a shine that I've never seen from anything but metal, but it wasn't metal. In my hands, it folded and crinkled and sparkled in the sun. Like that sounds like crazy future alien technology.
What drives me crazy is like, after I saw the Falcon Heavy launch, I'm sitting there out there in the lawn, and there's this guy sitting like, 5 feet in front of me, explaining to some woman how we got all this alien technology and when and where we got the alien technology, right? And I'm just like, I'm not going to say anything. But this guy's the biggest idiot in the world. He's confident, like, the microchip came here and da-da-da-da-da. And I was, I kind of want to like, so did the aliens plant the patent for using semiconductors for processing in 1932? Is that part of their plan too? You're thinking about plasma touchscreens.
They went back and backdated all these precursor technologies so they each make a significant but not extraordinary leap forward as they at exactly the pace you would expect for humans to have innovations.
Yeah, we got the microchip here and all that. So like we just invented the theorists that didn't really exist. Von Neumann, not a real guy. These other guys. I mean, like it just like, and it's just frustrating because it's like you literally read a conspiracy theory on this, and this is all you even know about microchips. It's all you even know about any of this stuff or whatever. You know nothing, and you less than nothing because you didn't even know the source of what you read this. It just kind of like, I didn't say anything. But I watched this guy just sort of explain. It's like, that's why they don't want to cure anything, It's like, well, they can't cure cancer. There are thousands of kinds of cancer. It's probably kind of tricky. And you think a pharmaceutical company would rather go out of business than, I don't know, sell the cure? It's like
those conspiracy theories always tend to age poorly too, right? Because at some point you have to peg where the aliens gave us the thing that changed everything, which tends to kind of shift over time, right? Because like why the microchip and not like you said, like the semiconductor or the electricity or the battery or whatever, right? Like,
well, and then plus
the
also
jar.
There's that. Yeah, there you go. So this is a shot from Roswell of what looks like, I would imagine in the 1940s, a fairly extraordinary material that they had not seen before.
Yeah.
Dude, Mylar's still rad.
Yeah.
There's a hot take for you. Mylar's still rad. Put my name on it.
In many ways, Mylar never left.
Hey, you want to know what else never left? Your ability to support this high quality show by going over to patreon.com/weird things. That is where you can go ahead and kick us a few bucks. Keep us rocking and rolling. Tell you what, this is a busy crew. We're all over the place. We're flying hither and yon. We took a day off for Labor Day, but that is a rarity around these parts because we keep it rolling no matter what we have on our schedule, and that's because of you guys. Patreon.com/weird.
I don't want to ladle on any guilt or whatever, but there's a threshold that we just dip a little bit below. Can we just get up $9 per episode? Is that too much? If you're somebody out there who's like, I've enjoyed this stuff, you could be one of the 9 people. Or you could be the one person, Daddy Warbucks with $9 that loves the episodes.
Yeah. Come on in. The water's fine. Patreon.com/Weird Things.
If there's something more we can do, let us know.
Yeah.
Anything.
That's right. Yeah, guess what? You get to be the boss of us. You get to tell us what you want, and we have to do it because we work for you.
Well, I think
Yeah,
one
that's
half
right.
of that is true.
So, it doesn't pay to be a romantic. It just doesn't.
I think Hollywood would disagree.
Well, Brian, I think that romance, some people say it's dead, and perhaps I blame the courts, I blame society, I blame, when a man wants to do an amazing gesture for his girlfriend and he gets punished. Not only that, punished, but perhaps savagely beaten.
Oh, dear.
It's just-
This
just not-
escalated very quickly because up until this, I thought we were talking about that gender reveal video.
it's just not, I don't know. It's just not right. I mean, you'd think that the world, the universe, and nature would just say, hey, this is a romantic heart. We've just let this follow through. Let this play out the way that this person intends.
So if I'm sniffing around, I've watched enough Weird Things to get an idea. Sounds like somebody had good intentions,
Yes.
made a grand gesture to show appreciation for another person, and the world, being cruel, heartless, and full of vitriol, couldn't handle for one brief moment anything shinier than its own corporate greed, and misinterpreted the signal, and everyone's making it a big fuss over what clearly was meant as a charitable and joyful gesture.
And I mean, it was like a sign from, I think maybe like Any Which Way You Can or Any Which Way But Loose, kind of very similar to that. So this man's in love with a woman, love his girlfriend, and he wants to give her the best present you possibly can. Like I spent, 1 year with my girlfriend.
Did he
It's
get
like,
her a monkey?
Did he what?
Get her a monkey?
He tried.
What's wrong with that? You used to be able to mail order monkeys. They came in a cage.
Just want to get her a squirrel monkey. It's all he wanted to do.
Oh, that's the traditional first year anniversary, right? You get your beloved spider monkey.
The squirrel monkey. Remember the ones we hung out with, Justin?
Well, I
What
mean,
was that?
obviously they had somebody had squirrel monkeys, so it's got to be legal to have squirrel monkeys. Is this a law thing? Did they set him up on a sting? Did they arrest this dude?
You could call it an attractive nuisance. So you could say like, hey, we've got a bunch of monkeys and you don't even think about coming here to try to get one of these monkeys.
Oh, he tried to steal a monkey?
Can you steal another living creature? Can you steal
That's
a
true.
I guess it's
That's true.
slavery. Yes, you can.
I mean, there is a
Kidnapping,
moral
yeah.
philosophy that says that no creature can own another creature. So who
You want to know what? As we have known on the internet for years and years, information and squirrel monkeys want to be free. Enough as they become mine.
So, when this headline starts, a drunk man. Okay, listen. Do you know that he was positively drunk is he drunk right now? Is he always a drunk man? You get drunk once, are you labeled drunk man forever?
Yeah, you know what? I'll go a step farther. Even if his blood alcohol content was 0.20, it's subjective how you handle. We all process chemicals differently. Maybe he's
Yeah.
totally fine.
Maybe he would have done this sober. We don't know. So a drunk man is feared to have been beaten up by a pack of tiny monkeys after breaking into a zoo to try to catch one.
Beaten up by 10-inch squirrel monkeys.
That's a big squirrel. 10 inches.
They're
Maybe?
monkeys.
Well, and
Oh,
also
monkeys. Oh, okay.
beaten. Like I believe Claude. It's hard for me to picture anything 10 inches large throwing a punch that's gonna bruise me.
He's battered. Oh my God, these are the monkeys that we interacted
Yes.
with at Monkey Jungle, right?
Yes. Not the same monkeys, but
I mean, as
They're
far
not
as
all-
you
not all
know,
monkeys are the same, Justin.
maybe
these are in Wellington. These are in New Zealand, so they're.
they
Sure,
got
but
transferred.
the same
Yeah.
species of monkeys
Yep.
that we came in.
So we had an adorable, fun encounter. They climbed all over us and fed from our hands, and made us one of their tribe.
highly recommended if you're ever in the Miami area. Go make it out to Monkey Jungle and splurge. You deserve it. Treat yourself. Do the the plus tour where you get a box of raisins and you feed them amazing raisins. Because
the fun.
I would have thought, based on our experience, this would have been an amazing time for him. What did he do? I've turned totally against him. Screw you, man in love, drunk man. If you could befoul these delightful creatures, then I think that you are at fault.
Man, how do you think, because there's some level of sentience happening with all these monkeys, at some point they have to go from, oh, it's the people who bring us treats. Oh, wait, he's grabbing Garbrak, and is Garbrak's not happy about this. Hey, put Garbrak down, they all shout one at a time, and then eventually realize, you know what, I don't think this is a nice guy at all. Let's kick his butt.
Maybe. I think the way they behave, I think from the moment he tried to enter the cage, they were probably just super skittish. And then when he decided to go for one, apparently some of the monkeys were hurt, had broken legs and stuff and all that, so it's not funny. And this guy got what he deserved, monkey justice.
We don't have a video of this specific incident, but the Sun helpfully provided a dramatic video of monkeys attacking another drunk man at a zoo.
Oh, great. Different monkeys.
Different monkeys.
Drunk man.
An older man. He's like in a moat.
They look like they're trying to help him. Oh, no, not so much helping.
They're not trying to help him.
He's. It looks like he's just reaching out to him in the moat. Oh, and meanwhile, all the other monkeys, aka humans, are just sitting there like real asshats. Just
what are you
watching.
gonna
What
do,
are you supposed
Ryan?
to do?
I mean, what is this guy doing? He's going the wrong way. Oh, you're gonna lose a finger. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Content warning: he does get a little bloody.
Oh my goodness! That is an upset monkey.
I think he is trying to get up onto the monkey island.
Yeah, he's like in the
boy,
moat.
howdy, did
Boo,
he
boo, boo, boo,
get
boo,
a
boo.
real souvenir for his
Ooh,
troubles.
okay.
My goodness, that dude was so drunk he was like, "Oh, is that my bone?
Is that
Ooh,
a lot of my
golly."
blood?
Oh, jeez.
Who's a lot of my blood? Fed?
Newsflash: don't go to Monkey Island unless you're invited to Monkey Island.
Yeah, he definitely seemed way too comfortable.
Invite only.
Yeah.
He seemed too comfortable in that moat, that filthy moat.
Yeah.
Well, I think, listen, they probably would have been all right with him just splashing around in that disgusting green brackish water. It was just he got a little too close to mainland, and they were like, "Yeah, sorry, we're turning you back."
Yeah. So yeah, please don't steal monkeys. You know, it's funny. It's like this sort of the backstory why we were at that monkey jungle was because, do you remember why?
I think I remember. Does the reason why involve a big name drop?
Yes, it was.
Okay, yeah. No, I remember that.
Or if it's fine to say, David Copperfield was looking to like put monkeys on his island, right? And so we're friends with David and friends with Chris Kenner, of course. Actually, Chris is like, oh, well, I'll get you guys on the tour there. So we get the tour there to the back of Monkey Jungle to go see that, and then it was an awesome experience. But I'm like, David's got to do this. David's got to do this. David's got to have a whole. This is gonna be the best thing ever in the world. I may have talked them out of it by my weird enthusiasm afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. No, there was definitely, we were like, oh, thumbs up, you should do it. And Chris is like, we weren't looking for your opinion, but you should do it. You should really do it. Go.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Best thing that ever came out of knowing somebody famous peripherally ever.
Oh, 100%. No, I think I then took two girlfriends there.
It became part of your grooming.
Listen, if you are single and you live in South Florida, you can always go to a fancy dinner. You can always go to a fancy club. You can always go to the beach. Very rarely you get one shot at overspending a little bit of taking a girl on the backstage tour of Monkey Jungle, and that is a Facebook photo for life.
Yeah. Gentlemen, all right. This is cool. This is a very, very, very cool story, and pushing the boundaries of technology, is one of these things that we are in the 21st century, by the way, in case you forgot. You guys remember the experimental glider, the Perlan, Perlan?
Is this a solar-powered one that could theoretically just keep on going?
No, this is actually just full-on glider, no solar panels, just gets towed to a certain altitude, then it uses air currents to go higher. there's been theories, there's some suggestions on like gliders are fascinating because gliders aren't just something that go up there and they just sort of fall. You get what's called these unmanned gliders get super, super fast, like over mountain ranges. Like people will take them, fly, they'll capture a current up over the mountain, fall back down, go up and get into the hundreds of miles an hour, like with unmanned gliders. And so the idea here was they wanted to use one of these gliders and use we called mountain waves because the wind goes up the mountain, goes to a high altitude. They're going to send this manned glider, 2 men in it, and they're going to send it up the mountain wave and to try to achieve a very, very high altitude. Now we're looking at an infographic where they show this sort of pattern like over the mountains, and you can see this one point where there's this like spinning circle, and that's where like they'll use unmanned gliders. I think somewhere like the Sierras, I forget where it is, but like there's some spot there where they get like these unmanned ones to go stupid fast because they just keep spinning and spinning and spinning in these higher altitudes. But here they used a manned one to go up a mountain current, up the wave to set an altitude record for a glider. Now it started at something like 30,000 feet. You ready for the altitude it reached?
It started at 30,000, which is just...
It was towed to 40. They towed it to 40,000 feet.
Okay. They towed it to 40,000, so that's already above commercial airliner. Stratosphere is what, like 200,000 or 100,000 or something?
Something like that. I don't know.
I would be amazed if they got over 80,000 square feet, not square feet, feet up.
Well, I would be amazed too. They didn't make it that high, Brian.
Okay.
But they made it. They started at 40. They made it to 65,000 feet, which they set a new record for glider and one of the highest altitude for a winged aircraft at all. Okay, and which is kind of easy.
Is there really any weather at 65,000 feet?
You still win. It's your atmosphere is much thinner, but you're still going to have, you're going to have winds and currents and things like that. But yeah, you're dealing with a much less, atmospheric density. You're talking at like 100,000 feet. It's like the atmosphere of Mars. It's like it's 1% or 2% of Earth's atmosphere. So
I would imagine an unmanned craft running on, a fairly, I would imagine, simple AI algorithm. Like, it just seems like we should just cover the entire Earth with these, just constantly up and just floating around, adapting on the fly to whatever breezes are going whichever way to stay up there. Then all of a sudden we have global, insanely fast internet and unbelievable information fidelity.
That was Facebook's plan.
What's that?
That was the Facebook plan.
Right.
But so there are the highest altitude for unmanned, by the way, was the NASA Helios. So that was not a glider, but that was a solar powered, right? So that was what they were able to do with that. Okay. Now, in the case of this, there is the advantages, say, if you're using these sort of like gliders, or if you're using, in this case, you're not talking about glider, you're talking about actually like drones, so like the NASA one, solar powered like that. That's what Facebook wanted to do. Pro and con. Pro, it's easy to deploy. You can cover a large area. Con is that, to get really good connectivity, you've got to have big transmitters, big power sources, things like that. And so you need a lot of them and not just a handful of them, which means you got a lot of these you got to deploy, you got to put up there. And then we're at this point where satellite technology is getting a lot cheaper. It's this.
It may make sense just to go straight to orbit rather than this intermediate step.
But there might be, there might be cases where it does make sense. An example is, take for example, like space-based solar. It's just the economics of it really doesn't work out when you figure out, like, because people are like, oh, now that we'll put solar panels in space. Well, it's like, okay, you put a bunch of solar panels in space, then you got to take that power and you got to convert it into some sort of beam, a microwave or something. Forget the.
Which looks an awful lot like a space death ray.
But even forgetting that, just that you've now got this powerful microwave beam you've got to shoot down to Earth, and now you've got to have a big, huge collector for this thing, because it's not like hitting something the size of, a basketball court, and depending upon this deficiencies, whatever, these things could be very massive collectors, okay? Then, the other thing, too, is people are like, oh, but space works at night. Well, it depends. If your solar panel's in low Earth orbit and your collector is fixed on Earth in one spot, you need to have multiple collecting points. Yeah. And but it's the point is it gets more and more complicated. But I'll say the but is, if you're Japan and you don't have room for a bunch of solar panels and stuff, and you're looking for alternative, it might make sense there. If you're a forward-based military operation, or if you're somewhere else in some place where you don't have access to a power grid, the ability with solar panels, well, then yeah, maybe it makes sense. But if you're, if you're in America, you're in China, you're in Canada, your places like you have wide fields, you have rooftops and places to put solar panels, then why just do it there? Cut out the middle.
I mean, also, if you're a forward-facing military deployment, you could always go ahead and use that gigantic death ray.
They're coming over the ridge. What are your coordinates for power? Our coordinates plus, 2 clicks.
Yeah.
So, not to say that it's not that, but anyhow. This is another item that came up that was very cool. So the Japanese space, I think it's the Japanese Space Agency, is like JAXA, whatever that is. They're trying something very cool, and that is they're deploying on a satellite. They're going to do their own test of a robot to go between a tether for their own. Hey, let's see if we could still build a space elevator. And what they want to do is they want to take, two objects, 2 satellites or 2 small objects, and with a very long tether, and to see the physics of something going from one point to the other, because it works great on paper and, it's all theoretical. But when you're trying to have something move across a tether effectively in, microgravity, what happens there? And you might get vibrations, might become, we've had things like that before using tethers where vibrations just didn't dissipate and tore things apart. And we had to learn a lot about that by just actually testing this. And I'm not a big, I think that with where we are, reusable rockets, space elevators at this point don't make any sense given all the other problems of the space. Forget the technology. It's, hey, we want to put a 20,000 mile long tether, above Ecuador with weather and seas, hurricanes. And people are like, well, you can move it. I'm like, yes, we could do these things. There's a lot of things we could do, but we don't even do the simple stuff. So. But I'm all for people wanting to investigate and find out if there's something to it. So
I wonder what the cost savings would have to be for this kind of infrastructure thing. As we discussed, once you, I think we figured out, or you figured out that the Falcon Heavy, or the Falcon 9
VFR.
No. That it would be roughly the cost of a flight around the world to get to orbit. With everything, if all the equipment was reused and all that, like that is such a massive reduction of expense that it makes me wonder how much cheaper a space elevator would have to be for that to make sense. To build the infrastructure to make happen.
Yeah, when you're looking at, let's say, the big Falcon rocket, which is being built now, and SpaceX is, Gwynne Shotwell says next year we think we'll be seeing hopping tests of that. When you're building a rocket that's getting hundreds of uses or 1,000 uses out of this thing, your fuel cost is your primary cost, and it runs on methane. Space elevators, are electric, and so you can say they could be electric, and you can say, hey, effectively your cost is that. You still have a maintenance cost, and you also think per square foot or whatever of this thing. It's just there's huge amounts of infrastructure. Your infrastructure maintenance alone, is it take 20,000 people to maintain a space elevator? And people would say, oh no, we don't know. But to imagine that the most advanced, sophisticated engineering project in human history is somehow magically going to be less easy, take fewer people to maintain than the BART. Just
yeah. I mean, that's the one thing I would say is specifically where we are now compared to the theoretical future that we were looking at 10 years ago. The idea, I think that there was an idea of like, okay, let's take on the idea, the cost to build this, but also we're going to need to maintain it. And if it's broken, it won't work. Right. And we need to understand that we can't really wrap our head around exactly what it costs every time something breaks in a space elevator. We won't know that until we are well into it. Right. Any kind of gigantic engineering project like this tends to be more expensive than you would initially think it would be. Whereas now, at least, hey, look, SpaceX rockets have blown up and they launch another rocket and it sucks and it's bad and whatever's lost is lost. And hopefully you don't have any human casualties. But at the end of the day, there's another one to take its place. A space elevator having any kind of problem is going to, affect the entire project.
And I'm bearish on the prospects, but totally supportive of. Let's continue in research. Let's not shut the door. Let's not,
No.
let's keep, but we've got this amazing opportunity now with reusables, and that's. Oh,
I
hey,
think
by the
this
way, I don't know if you heard this, but they landed a rocket booster last night. Did you know that? Did you know they're capable of doing that now?
Not even worthy of mention, even on this show. We're so excited about it.
I follow SpaceX on Twitter, and I was like watching the gender reveal memes and stuff like that. And it's like SpaceX is doing its live tweeting of, everything fairing deployed, boring, scroll, scroll, scroll. Sure, greatest feat in, space engineering in my lifetime. Whatevs. Bring on the memes.
Have they successfully caught the fairing yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. It's tricky. So they're trying to, the upper part of the first stage, which is the housing, this big composite thing that splits apart to protect the satellite, cost millions of dollars. And so, Elon Musk describes it like, imagine, pallets of cocaine dropping into the ocean. You'd try to recover those. Like, oh, interesting metaphor there. Okay. So that's the point. Is like saying, listen, if we can capture these things, and let's say, the recovery effort costs half the price of it, it still saves us $1 million or $2 million a launch. And that attention to efficiencies, we can save 5% here. And big government contractors don't care about that kind of stuff. They don't. But you say 5% here, 5% here, do that a few times, soon you're half the price of your competitors.
No, there's literally no there is no incentive for any gigantic military contractor to talk about how much you'll be saving next year. Imagine all of your prices reduced. No, they don't like that.
Yeah. So anyhow, gentlemen, I think next week we'll pick up with the new Quest for Journey.
Mission Quest.
No, it's Quest for Journey now. we're trying to find out what happened to it. So.
I read a book. I got a pick.
All right. Oh, Brian read a book.
Oh, this part where we get into a semantic argument where there is some weird faction of people.
Oh, wait, you listened to a book, Brian. Oh, it doesn't count.
Right.
Doesn't count.
You listen to a book.
Take his book choo-choo train off the wall from the book train, because Brian turned out did not read the book class.
Like the people.
Finished. Ma, we'll keep you out with our spines of the books we've read.
Give him a paper cut with the bookmarks he doesn't possess.
We'll throw the book at you, literally, because you didn't read it.
Where do you think that high and mightiness comes from in those people?
It is a relic of just a literary.
I guess all of us remember. I guess all of us remember a time in our life where we were very proud that we had learned to read, and we knew peers who could not read that we got to lord that over them and feel superior. And I guess there's some version
did you hear
of
what
that.
happened to Clifford? What? Oh, sorry. It's in the book, Brian. You'll have to read it.
Man, take it from somebody who has had to read a lot of books that aren't on Audible over the past 6 months. Oh my God, I'll never go back. I never go back to reading. They suck. It sucks, and I fall asleep, and I can't drive. Like, it's the worst.
Well, and plus also your dumb trader eyes skip ahead, and if there's a big boring paragraph, you just sort of like, yeah, I got it, pretty much, I guess. Whereas like audiobooks force you to listen to every word, which especially matters in drier nonfiction books like my pick for this week, which is by the author Charles C. Mann. And it's called The Wizard and the Prophet. And it is the story of two individuals. One is well known to us and well beloved. The other is a new character that I had not met. It's the historical story of, I forget the guy's first name, but Vogt and Borlaug. One, the prophet, the guy who wrote the original works, one of the first books that referred to the environment, capital T, capital E, and of course Norman Borlaug, leader of the Green Revolution and Nobel.
That'll be his name.
What's that?
Hallowed be his name.
That's right. But specifically, he talks about the two different approaches between prophets, in other words, those who forecast the doom coming and say you must repent and take actions to avert doomsday, and wizards who feel like, yeah, no, bring it on. Let's do it. We'll just solve it. Like we solve everything else. We're wizards. And it did a really good job of moving me from my default position of just assuming the wizards are always right, and instead made me really consider the benefits of the prophet side of things. And it spends a little more time selling the prophet sides, because I think in general, if you're not already on board with traditional conservation, reduce, reuse, recycle kind of stuff, it does a good job of explaining their position better. I don't know. I felt enlightened. My favorite part is that the book was read by Bronson Pinchot, who apparently has read like a hell of a lot of audiobooks. I just looked at the rest of his category of his catalog. Anyway, it was great. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
That sounds very interesting. Yeah, Norm Borlaug is somebody, everybody here who's not familiar with them, you need to know this guy's saved more lives than just about anybody in history.
Yeah. They also get very biographical, boots on the ground, and I have not read his. I think it was called his autobiography, but it was ghostwritten, and he does a really good job in the footnotes of explaining, hey, there's a lot we don't know about Norman Borlaug. A lot of this is apocryphal. The best source is this, but we know it's flawed for all these reasons. But for the purposes of this book, this is the closest thing to his actual story since he read it and approved it. It's apparently close enough to what happened that we can quote from it. Just be cool. But hearing his humble upbringings. It's great. It rose my appreciation for Borlaug, and it enlightened me to the perspective of what I guess what is the other side, the other tribe of trying to be good stewards of the environment.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
I'm gonna do a repeat pick because I finished the season. Succession on HBO. This is the dramatized series that puts you in the family travails of what is fairly transparently a Murdoch type family of an aging media conglomerate that has this all these family things. I kind of compared it to it's a little bit of a serious Arrested Development, but man. If I can I tempt you guys with a little element that might spice up and tempt you guys to watch the show? It's not really a spoiler. It's just kind of a thing that happens. So the family set up with Brian Cox as the Rupert Murdoch stand-in, right? Old guard head of this family. 2 sons who are involved in the company, and then a daughter. The daughter is involved in politics. And so she is a political advisor that she winds up. The thing I like about the show is that all the stuff that's set up in the first couple episodes, they kind of filter through. You think that a show like this is going to spend all season on it. And there are through lines that kind of go from pillar to post. But by and large, it's always kind of ahead of you, and it's wrapping things up faster than you expect and consistently giving these characters new challenges, and you never really know how long they're going to last or whether or not this is going to be the one that takes them to the end. But you assume, at least I did watching it, that you were going to spend the entire time with this character, the political advisor, getting this one lady elected, and then just all of a sudden in the middle of the season they're like, oh yeah, the election was over, she won. So now she's looking for another job. And she finds what is fairly nakedly a Bernie Sanders stand-in, where now like the daughter of this News Corpy situation now has to shepherd this Bernie Sanders who is running on the idea that her family is literally the devil. And all I'll say is this. There's always these fascinating elements in following politics where you hear these like random asides of like, oh, a weekend vacation, Hillary Clinton met with Rupert Murdoch, and they seem to really like each other. You get a little bit more. This is a dramatized version of situations like that, where diametric political opposites now have to have kind of these realpolitik conversations about how things go. And that backdrop set with, I think, very, very well done family dynamic writing really, really sold me on a show that it was way, for a million reasons, up to and including the fact that it's a Gary Sanchez production, meaning it's Adam McKay and Will Ferrell as the producers. I have not really trusted them with any kind of political or media criticisms for a little bit, based on their personal kind of writings and opinions. This was very, very, very well done, and what I very much enjoyed in a rich possibility for family drama in a situation like that. Well done, well told, and just a superb finale.
Dude, that's awesome.
Bryce?
I have a pick. So over the weekend, or right before the weekend, a new video game came out, and that is Marvel's Spider-Man on the PlayStation.
I think it just finished downloading. Like our Wi-Fi was so slow. I haven't played it yet, but I've already bought it.
It's very good. The first question everyone has is the web swinging good? And it's very good. What I really like about it is that it has a sense of flow, not just in the web swinging and not just in the combat, but in pretty much all of the systems of the game. You can kind of hop in and out of like, street crimes. You just kind of hop into it, and there's not like a big loading thing in or out of it. There are lots of different little extra missions that you can go and do, and those are fun, and they change them up enough where they feel like you're actually doing something and not just kind of going to the thing and hitting all the whoop wops and boop boos. And I think my only criticism of the game is that it's only really good. It's not super surprising. Like, it is what a really good Spider-Man game looks like.
Looks gorgeous.
And yeah, it really is gorgeous. And like, even the few load times that there are, which are when you load into the game, or when the game decides, oh, hey, well, this mission that you're doing takes place at night, but you are at the part of the story where it's daytime, so we have to load a different time of day. Like, even those load times are not bad at all. So it's really good looking, and it holds up well in terms of performance. So I don't tend to like games where it's like you're given the big map and there are just a million icons everywhere.
It's basically a to-do list, the game.
Right.
It's like, anyway, you're behind on all these emails. Could you just play the mini game where you answer all your emails?
But what's nice about it is it really takes its time to parcel out those different things. So like, from the beginning, it's like, find my old backpacks, and each one has a memento, and you click into it, and he tells you a little thing about his backstory, and this is when I fought the rhino and I needed his tusk to figure out what his suit is made out of, and
the spider's dead.
And so it kind of gives you more of those over time, so you have more reason to keep going back and forth throughout the city. But it's
cool.
I think it's really cool. I think it's really good. So if you have a
Cool.
PlayStation, that's
Golden
Marvel's
Age
Spider-Man.
for Spider-Man. Like, Into the Spider-Verse looks gorgeous.
Oh my
Yeah, it
gosh,
does.
dude, that is that trailer I've watched maybe 20 times. It's great.
Yeah. It just
One last thing on the Spider-Man game. If you are a Spider-Man fan, there are like a million characters in this. It's not like one big bad guy. There's like 10.
So
really
if you're
cool.
familiar with with the classic 10 big bad guys,
Like, I think the Sinister Six is somewhere on the box art for this.
Right on.
Is part of the feature set. So there's a lot of like good. Also, okay, I'm gonna tell you this because you're gonna find out immediately. J. Jonah Jameson does not work at the Daily Bugle anymore. Do you guys know? Has any of you heard this?
I know.
No,
I know.
I've not.
Yeah.
J. Jonah Jameson does not work at the Daily Bugle anymore. He quit to start his own podcast, which is very much an Alex Jonesian style.
Oh, that's amazing! Tell me, it's like in the equivalent of Grand Theft Auto. You can listen to the podcast as you're doing your other stuff.
Okay, so that's the frustrating thing. It pops up regularly when you're not doing anything, right? Like, oh, okay, here's something you just did, and,
right?
But he's putting his spin on it, and he's getting callers. You're like, actually, Spider-Man's pretty good. And he's like, ah. But you can go into the menu and listen to all of the ones that have played. But it's a bummer because you can only listen in that menu.
Oh, you can't do it like why? Because
so they're not. But then they're not long. They're only like a minute or two long. They're
sure,
just
but
audio
also
drops,
like that would be so in character is for Spider-Man to be listening to podcasts as
Sure.
he's looking
about
for bad guys.
himself. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I understand why you wouldn't make a full thing out of it because they're very short and you only get them after occasional bits or
Right.
unlocking story bits. But I do wish you could play it and then at least let me get back into it and then stop it when it's done. But that's such a really great character development thing.
That's awesome. And I'll tell you what, you're absolutely right, Andrew, that this is just a golden age of Spider-Man, and for whatever reason, Spider-Man as a property, people have just dialed in. Maybe it's just because they had so many whacks at a movie. And it was just like, okay, God, we don't need to do the same thing. Like, that's literally, we've mined these things. Let's focus on everything else. Like, you have, he's sad. His uncle died. Great power, great responsibility. He screwed up that one time. Can we now focus on literally everything else?
Yeah, this is not an origin story.
Yeah.
This game. It's like he's been Spider-Man for many years, and there's all sorts of backstory between like him and Aunt May, him and MJ, him and what's the guy's name? Ben, or not Ben, his friend, the Oscorp son guy.
Oh, Harry Osborn.
Harry, yeah. Like there's all sorts of backstory there that is not just like the origin story again.
Yeah, and that's what's made Spider-Man such a rich character for so long, and everybody always wants to start at square one when he's always been a fascinating character. And also, I'm so glad that they just threw all the spaghetti at the wall for the villains because he's got the best rogues gallery.
There's a great
it's him and Batman are the only people in really number one position, and I always like the Spider.
I have one small little last story. Are any of you guys like big on Spider-Man stuff? Like
Oh yeah.
Do you know Screwball? Is Screwball an existing villain?
Not Screwball. I'm thinking of Speedball. He was a new hero they were trying out in the early 90s or something.
So there's a great side mission where you go up to someone and she's like, oh, thanks for your help for doing the whatever challenge. Here, just open up the camera and take a picture of this QR code. And you find out that is this villain Screwball, who is a live streamer who is like, I've kidnapped someone and now we're watching you having to go find these QR codes. And at each point he gets stopped by armed guards, which is a swatting parallel that I couldn't help but make. It's interesting in those little modern touches.
So it feels like they've successfully taken a lot of storylines and brought them into the early 21st century.
I think so. I mean, I don't know if it seemed like Screwball was an existing character, but it was also just looked like a woman.
Screwball debuted in 2008.
Oh,
so
newer.
So she's been around for a decade, which by Spider-Man standards makes her
20 minutes old.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that. Did you have a pick, Andrew?
I got two picks. One is I've been watching Castle Rock and continue to really enjoy the show. It's been one of my nice surprises of it. It's set, as we mentioned, in the Stephen King universe, so there's characters and things that play and relate to it, but it's its own story. You don't have to know anything about Stephen King's stories to follow through. And I'm digging it, and it's man, we've got one more episode this season, and it just kind of going crazy pants, like you have no idea what's going on. And I kind of because I signed up for it saying, hey, it's Stephen King and it may not make any sense at all, let me just see if I enjoy where it goes, and I'm having a lot of fun, so really enjoying that. And then I have another pick, which is a hardware pick. So I got my new car, and one of the things that I live with and I love all the time is I literally have I was laughing last night because I'm sitting at dinner and my girlfriend wondered what time it was, and I just go, Alexa, what time is it? And she's going to tell me right now. But I'm sitting there and I hear this small voice go, the time is 8:46 p.m. And I'm like, Where is that coming from? Because I thought
Sorry, I don't know that one.
it's okay. It's all right. You don't win every one. I thought maybe it might be the Alexa that was over here. I thought, but like I actually had, one of those Fire tablets that was closed that I'd charged and set on the side, of the counter and forgotten about for like a week or two, but I turned it on and that hurt me. And it's like, oh, I can help you. I can help you with it. So I have these all around me, but my car, I don't have them. I don't have it. And I like using her because for my audiobooks, because that's my favorite thing to do is I can pick up where I left it off and I can just say, hey, set my sleep timer for 8 minutes, play my audiobook. She'll play it for 8 minutes, then stop. I do that every night when I go to sleep. But when I drive, I like to drive and listen to audiobooks. So I got from my car, and I mean, you can pull out your phone, you can do that. But I'm like, if anybody drives me, Andrew does not take his phone out of his pocket because it's not to be a distracted driver. So I got from my car it is the Jarman Speak Plus, and I was hesitant because it had like 3 out of like 5 stars on Amazon. Everybody loved it, but it's a dash cam. It's a little dash cam, but it's got her built into it. And it's got the little blue ring and all that with it. So you can get it on Amazon for like $190 or whatever, free shipping. They have just the Speak, which the
Holy
regular
cow.
Speak also has.
Does it get internet connectivity through your phone, like through
Yep.
Bluetooth?
Yep.
Oh,
So
that's pretty
you can
great.
get one for 80. The one that's 180 whatever has a built-in dash cam. So I got
Oh,
that
so
one.
this has like a little like this one's got like lane navigation information on this.
Yeah,
little
it'll
display.
do navigation. It'll do that. It'll tell you if like they think it's a car in your lane. I'm driving a Tesla, so it's not really that helpful compared to that. It's not, but it has a lot of cool features in it. But it's got a dash cam and stuff built in there. So if you're looking for an accessory that adds a lot of stuff to your car, I've got it, and I just use it for, the Alexa purposes, and very, very happy with it. Now I just get in, I switch my car. All I have to do is switch my car over to connect to my phone through the, for the music part, the stereo system, and it's ready and willing. So
That's awesome.
that's my pick. Again, if you want to put that in your car and you have it, and just once it automatically turns on with my car, I don't have to touch anything else, and I've got the full on capabilities there.
Awesome.
Nice.
Gentlemen, it's been weird.
Sure has.
It's been weird.
Nice.
Next week I'll talk about this new show I started watching called Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, it's great.
Welcome.
Oh my God.
Had you never seen
I
it?
watched a couple episodes years ago and said, yep, this is funny. I don't have time for it. And now I found I have time.
Yeah,
And I'm
once
like, oh
once
my-
you get to know all the characters, that shorthand, oh my god, it's just so good. It's so
yeah.
good for so long. It's our generation's Seinfeld. Like it's great.
Yeah, I'll be back.
Hey, everybody. We're between the things right now. I could just go on for days about Spider-Man. Just for days. Spider-Man's just so great. It's great. It's a great game. It was a weird thing because I got I got really like hyped for it only a few days before it actually came out, to the point where I knew I wanted to, once I found out it was coming out, like it was like a midnight digital release, like I pre-ordered it like 3 hours before it came out so I could play it on stream. It's great. Yeah, Sign was mentioning the health system. You like, instead of like health packs, like you gain like this focus meter, and so you press a button and you will actually spend that focus meter to heal yourself. So it's like punching bad guys to heal yourself. It's a really interesting like balance for a brawler game like that. I think the last brawler I played was like Yakuza, and that has health packs, and you buy bottles of soda and stuff from stores. Hey, Justin.
Hello. Yeah, man, I'm really bummed that the Spider-Man game is PS4.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it would matter if it were Xbox, because I don't have either, but it really is one of those things where I would probably really like it, and I'd spend a lot of time playing it, but I don't really think that I have the interest in buying a PS4.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't say it's like a console, a game to buy a console for. But I think that in terms of like Sony's portfolio of exclusive games in the past 3 or 4 years, like just put it on top of the pile. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, because they've done like was God of War, was that them
Yeah.
too?
they had God of War. Last of Us 2 is coming out sometime eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Red Dead's coming up, but that's multi-platform. Yeah, it's pretty good. Hey, Andrew.
Hello. So, dumb question: is Sony like electronics still attached to Sony Studios?
Sony Movie Studios?
Yeah.
I think so. I think they only spun out the interactive division,
Yeah.
but I think everything else is still tied together.
I mean, it kind of makes sense. They finally got a good Spider-Man game then.
Yeah, well, and like Insomniac, the company who made it, they made the Ratchet and Clank series, like those platformer games, and then before that they made the Spyro the Dragon games back on the PlayStation. And so it's an interesting pedigree, but I actually like that it was them making it instead of like Sucker Punch, which made Infamous, which was Sony's like original superhero series of like flying around cities and fighting other superheroes. But because I think they probably just would have made a game similar to that. I don't know, it's good games, video games. Hey, never been a better time.
Yeah. Hey, video games. Look at that.
And then some other game stuff. Into the Breach is now out on Nintendo Switch. I'll tell you what, if you like tactics games, it's great because it's just like mini chessboards. It's like bite-sized tactics game. That's pretty solid.
Yeah, saw something over the weekend that I wanted to talk about, and then I forgot.
I saw The Nun.
The Hun?
The Nun.
The Nun.
Nun?
What do you think? The Nun has been killing it.
We'll see how its second weekend does.
Oh, really?
Oh, it's bad. I mean, the audience score is horrible on it. And it's one of these things of you take something from a property that people are familiar with and you put it out the right time of year when there's nothing. Because, like, I've got that AMC, their AMC movie thing, which, 3 movies a week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm desperate. I'm lucky if I can find 1 movie a week I want to go see.
Yeah. What is so the Nun is part of another franchise?
It's part of the Conjuring franchise.
Oh,
It's a prequel. So it takes place explains, where this mysterious evil demonic creature thing came from. And you're like,
no.
huh.
Okay. 26 on Tomato, 48 audience. Jeez.
Yeah, 48 audience. That's
Yeah, that's death.
Yeah. But, franchise, timing, whatever. It's one of the reasons horror consistently is a solid investment is that your cost of development's really low. You put together a good trailer. You can make your money in your opening weekend and you can get it back, But it's got a really low cinema score, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Halloween had a good debut at the Toronto.
It looks. Have you seen the trailer for that?
I did, yeah.
Looks. I mean, I know my girlfriend asked, what do you think? It's like, I love Jamie Lee Curtis. If this holds up, this could be really cool. It's a different sort of storyline, and she's great. So
yeah, I saw the trailer for this. This was wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was also a it's a simple. I think horror is at its best when it is either way over the top or way simple. That you can either put yourself in this situation and be like, oh my God, it would be terrifying if I were there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or it's wouldn't it be crazy if this insane dragon just ate the world? Then it's like big and fantastical and silly. For that one, it's like, okay, look, grandma's crazy. Grandma's Jamie Lee Curtis, and she's like lived her entire life saying, I hope my brother breaks out of this prison so I can murder him. And the crazy brother breaks out of prison and she tries to murder him and he tries to murder everybody around her. Like, it's just perfect. Boom.
Just real quick, in the chat room, I did not see Slender Man. That just looked awful. I reluctantly saw The Nun just because the stubs pass, and I don't. Which is better? I don't know. I mean, The Nun is objectively. You watch this opening sequence. I'm like, this looks like it's shot in a soundstage. You know, like there's this abbey, this nun abbey, and there's fog rolling across the floor. I'm like, this is like Monster Squad level. Like, you know, like this is really like, wow. This Abbey's got some great light grid here, and really, and I'm not saying the production design's one thing. I mean, it's just like, wow, that nun's got a lot of makeup, and wow, like, yep, about to do a jump scare here, yep, about to set you up for here, and wow, this plot makes no sense at all to me. So, and I don't like to dump on movies on podcasts, I really don't, but it's really not good. It's really not good.
I wanted to.
And also, it's Blumhouse, right?
Nun?
No, I don't think Nun's Blumhouse.
Conjuring wasn't a Blumhouse.
I don't think Conjuring was.
All right, then never mind. I was gonna say that they've had enough success. They can.
Yeah, no, I don't. That doesn't look like it is.
Okay, yeah, no, my bad then.
Yeah.
I wanted to see Slenderman because apparently, they cut so much out of that movie that a lot of it just doesn't make sense. Because of those young girls from a year or two.
They forgot the pasta part of copy pasta. They cut. They just cut.
They only cut.
They didn't pasta.
Yeah.
All right, boys, we ready?
Yeah.
Take it away in 3, 2.
Alrighty. Welcome to the After Things podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Aloha.
Yo.
Justin Robert Young.
I jumped over my introduction. I was so excited to be on the show.
Well, the two of us were just saying hello to each other as we do, as we clock into work. Time to make the content.
Hey, fellas.
Now say hello to Bryce Brushwood.
Wow.
Bryce Brushwood.
Bryce Brushwood. Hey!
A little announcement. I was premature on your
I'm sorry for cutting it early.
shocked
I was just trying to keep the bit going.
Bryce Brushwood would be my younger, cooler brother. It's just like, man, we can't all be Bryce Brushwood. Some of us have to be Brian's, all right?
What's up, bro?
Now that I've, made a perfect bungle of an introduction.
It does work better, too, because Bryce is only one syllable. Like, Brian Brushwood is for that.
I have a better superhero name? No.
Yeah, but Bryce Brushwood is that nice, tight, 3-syllable thing.
Mm.
Yeah. I'm going to change my name to Bryce. And it's not because you have that name. It's just because it's objectively a better name.
You have to get it with an I, though.
Yeah. Yeah, there you
go. So, gentlemen, first, let's talk about the pros and cons of going on the Joe Rogan podcast. To clarify the air that you're erratic. People think you're erratic, a little out of control. So maybe just go on the Joe Rogan podcast for a couple hours, have a nice...
I have not watched it, but I've heard so much chatter about it. Save me the time and just tell me what it was like.
No. If you have not seen the clip, Bryce, please cue up the clip that wound up sending the stock into a bit of a convulsion last week.
Which it's recovered from, by the way. I just point that out.
Sure. All I'll say is this: but Andrew and I had a conversation the day it came out, and I was just like, nothing good can happen. There's like almost nil that can happen if you going and doing the Joe Rogan podcast. The only time that you should ever be talking about talking to Joe Rogan is if you happen to be ringside at a UFC event.
To good size to others, we are constantly rebaselining our expectations. So is that a joint? Or is it a cigar?
No.
Okay.
It's marijuana
it's
inside
weed.
of tobacco.
Oh, okay. So it's like pot tobacco posh.
You never had that?
Yeah, I think I tried one once.
Come on, man. You want some of it? You probably can't because of stockholders, right?
Probably can't because the stock will go down.
Like, I dare you. Why don't you lose millions of dollars of
People
valuation?
get upset at you if you do
Billions.
certain things. There's tobacco and marijuana in there. That's all it is. The combination of tobacco and marijuana is wonderful. First turned onto it by Charlie Murphy, and then reignited by Dave Chappelle. There you go.
So, there you go. Elon Musk took. Didn't exactly look like an expert toke there.
Is it possible that I'm trying to draw some parallels here. I wonder if all of this erratic noise from Elon Musk grants him some freedom in that, in the same way that the noise we get from President Trump does. Like, there's so much noise that everybody loves to latch on to, and if you've already decided you hate Elon Musk, then he's like, fine, guess what, I'm gonna feed you on the reg something to be outraged about once a week forever going forward. But if you are comfortable with me as a figurehead and captain of this ship of commerce, then you're not going to care about any of this noise, and so you don't mind that I'm doing it. Is it possible that both of them are attempting to make the same kind of play?
The only thing I would say is that for Trump, there is a world around politics that is media driven, and certainly there is such about business too. The difference is that with politics, a lot of it is just kind of opinion driven. That is not meant to be necessarily like there's not financial stakes necessarily. Certainly there are financial stakes to the president saying something because the president is an 800-pound, elephant that can't do anything without affecting anything. But what's interesting about Elon Musk is that there is him as a pop culture figure for which doing the thing every week makes you the biggest star, or we have not seen a person like Elon Musk because every time he dates an actress or a pop singer or goes on the Joe Rogan podcast or calls somebody a pedophile or something, he is introducing himself to a new sector of the world that, unlike us, is new to the Elon Musk game and is like, oh, wow, and he does this? Oh, I didn't know that he did this. I thought that the Tesla was made by Ford, and I thought that SpaceX was just a code for, it was the new NASA. Now I know that this guy does a thing. So there is that, but also there is not only this business world where his stock is batted up and down by whatever is happening in the news, but also there are people that are financially incentivized to see it go down. And so that's why this is a insanely volatile situation, not to mention the fact that he's kind of crossed into politics in that, people have political opinions about him, and they have tied it to him either in his brief, albeit brief, part of some of Trump's business counsels, or whatever you want to make of the union situation with Tesla. He's basically if you were to put him at the center of all the Venn diagrams for which Elon Musk does a thing that it affects, it is like the logo for the Apple photos. It is just a million different circles for which he is the dot at the center.
Yeah, as Bryce pulls up the logo for the Apple iPhoto thing so we can all have a visual reference here. I'm looking on my dock to see that. It's I think to Brian's point, I think that you reach a point where you're like, I'm gonna do me. I can try to make you all happy, but I probably will fail every now and then. But if I just sort of do me on a regular basis, then it's just going to become kind of noise. I watched the original Iron Man, and one of the things that was kind of, you go back there, Tony Stark's this guy is always in the tabloids. He's a genius heading a company, but he's all over the place with his behavior. And of course, that's a comic book, but it's also a comic book based on an archetype like Howard Hughes, a person who was a very real person who did very erratic things, was also brilliant in this. And Elon Musk ain't Howard Hughes level crazy. Elon Musk is kind of a guy dealing a lot of stress in ways that perhaps we wish he wouldn't do. But, as far as, the quality of what the product is, you know, we watched a SpaceX rocket perform admirably last night. He's hired an amazing team. He works with, you know, some of the most brilliant people in the world. I love my car, you know, like that's there. They're meeting part of the stress we've seen is him pushing himself to meet these production goals, and not because he was in Ibiza partying too much and then, you know, this embarrassing photo surface. This is, you know, we're seeing manifestations, I would say, of stress-related behavior.
Man, that's the other thing too. Like, imagine there's already, I think, a fair portion of listeners right now that would be uncomfortable with the level of scrutiny that the four of us have on this podcast. Imagine that at all times there are enough eyes looking at you, and every move you make affects millions of dollars, billions of dollars of venture capital. Like, can you imagine how profoundly isolating that experience could feel? And if you were of the ilk that it's like, I don't want that level of scrutiny in my life, like, that sounds positively traumatic, even to my ears.
Yeah, and you know, there's this. He's the public figure, and it's a responsibility of journalists, reporters, bloggers, whatever, to cover and to discuss these things and to investigate. And that's absolutely part of the job, was, you know, that public to do that. But I would say for him, the frustrating factors you read the headlines where they're not these objective headlines. It's like, you know, these, you know, very personally insulting kind of things that go beyond the facts and personal opinions and stuff. And granted, these are from people who often don't know anything from anything, but that's the hard part, is that on one level you got to accept the scrutiny. But then when you get this sort of this people you've never met or whatever have this are absolutely just bashing you, I can't imagine what that's like. You know, I think about, like, what would I go through if, like, somebody read one of my books and decided to interpret it in a different way and wanted to say horrific things about me? You know, like, if they had a public platform, that would drive me nuts. And I can deal with criticism right now, because if it's rando people who get up, like celebrities that get upset on rando Twitter people, like, to me, that's why. Yes, anybody can have a Twitter account. Anybody can say anything, and to let them scare you off Twitter seems silly to me. But when you're looking at people with bigger blog platforms, things like that, doing it, then that would be stressful.
So, and that's one of those things where I think Twitter, we've talked about this before, like, Twitter is when you, or I thought Twitter is when you want a chat room, but you only have the ability to make press releases. And when you have an asymmetry of power, when you have somebody way up, the person barking down here, making noise, trying to get a reaction, you know, the troll or whatever, they perceive themselves as so far down that it's like nothing I could say could actually affect. But meanwhile, the person up here doesn't perceive himself as being that much higher. And as a result, it's very strange. Like, to them, they're in a cool clubhouse called Twitter, and somebody, you know, who is supposed to be their friend is not talking like a friend. And so they respond the way you would and would be appropriate in a casual conversation or whatever. But of course, the perceived asymmetry of power changes everything.
We are, none of us were, I mean, there are people now that are coming of age that were born in an era where social media, the rules of social media had at least had a first draft, right? The majority of us listening to this show right now did not. We are all writing it on the fly. Like, we are all understanding what this kind of stuff means. But, you know, look, there's no doubt that the asymmetry of power creates for lonely and at times perilous and dangerous situations. I don't know if I've ever talked about this on any platform, but when Ashley and I started dating long distance, the reason why we had the long running joke that we were like platonic friends, right? And then we became platonic roommates. The reason why initially that started was because she was, understandably upset that, like, if we all of a sudden weren't seeing each other and we both have public internet facing personalities, that the next time she were to post a YouTube video, she would have fans of, because she doesn't know who, I mean, I'm just a guy that she was dating, right? The breakup could go poorly. And next thing you know, I'm like, hey, you want to know what? Spam everything that she does on the internet, and that could be bad. There is a lot that can go wrong. And there's a loneliness to that. There is a loneliness to the idea that once you understand that there are consequences for your every public move, that's a problem. Now, take that situation. Again, this is like the first year of like an NSFW show on Dragon Con, and Ashley's a fairly genre specific YouTube fame and multiply that by the escalating national debt clock, and you have what it goes on with something like that, where Elon Musk is trying to beat back short selling vultures for Tesla, and he's got Azalea Banks talking about how him and his girlfriend are racist on Instagram stories that makes its own for its own cottage industry for the pop culture fans of Elon Musk, the real life Tony Stark guy who don't know what the hell he really does. This is now an element of his life that he has to deal with.
I can't imagine that kind of scrutiny, but I'll tell you, like, not really to him, but sort of interested. We've watched a couple high profile people depart from Twitter or social media platforms because they complain of the criticisms and just the pervasive attitude. And I'm not gonna name names, but I would say in both cases, you read their Twitter feeds and they're part of the problem. They're awful people who, are mean and nasty towards other people. And then when it gets directed at them, you just see how thin-skinned it is.
Yeah, I guess I perceive it a little bit different, and this is one of the things that I really enjoyed about Ryan Holiday's work with Trust Me, I'm Lying, and certainly Conspiracy, where it's like, it's not that they, I think that people might be in general good, but they respond to market incentives, and the market incentives are to serve the outrage industrial complex and figure out a way to phrase things or take for granted untrue things in such a way and present them as a way to generate interest and clicks or whatever. And I think that when that same spotlight that they're shining on somebody else, and again, that perceived asymmetry of power, they feel like, oh, I'm exposing the dark underbelly of this billionaire, whatever. When it's shown on them, I think they realize in a very personal way the horrors of what they're participating in, and they don't like it. But of course that doesn't stop them because that's their job. They have to keep shining the light to get the clicks and phrasing things in the most outrageous way possible.
I also think that part of it is, and again, this is my largest fascination of the generational difference and understanding of social media, is that everybody who was born before social media, and really I think for a lot of the elements of the internet, the most fascinating parts were permanence. That now everything I did and said would be there forever. And so if you have somebody that, let's say, theoretically, science fiction scenario that we live in politically charged times, and that you feel like you need to be on the right side of history because somebody is going to look up your permanent record at the moment that the thing happened, and they will look to see who was the person who said the thing at the moment when it needed to be said, and who beat back the tide of the baddies at the moment when it was supposed to happen. And that's what's important. And so you get things that I think if you were to remove context from it and say, hey, is it cool when you have such a larger platform that you just eviscerated a stranger and called them names and said awful things about them? Do you think that that's a good thing or a bad thing? Is that an element of society that you would like to amplify about yourself, or is it one that you would like to apologize for because it is one of your baser instincts? And they would probably say, out of context, yes, no, I want to show kindness. I want to be somebody who moves the world forward in how I deal with people personally. And yet when it becomes this, no, but this is every tweet becomes the 99 theses that I'm nailing to the door, then, no one's going to criticize me when I'm right. This is the moment.
Well, that's just we get the pleas for civility and the pleas for, hey, we need to aim high, and then immediately we aim low. Well, they didn't do it. Well, they were playing dirty, so now I have to play. Like, that's the whole point of aiming high, is if somebody plays dirty, you say, hey, I'm not going to do that. I'm gonna be, I'm gonna keep my head up, and I'm not going to fall to that level. But if you're just waiting for somebody else to play dirty so you can play dirty or go that place, you never meant to aim high. You never had the intent to actually try to be noble or take higher ground.
So the here's a fun idea to wonder about. I'm not married to this. I'm just feeling it out. I wonder if until about 20 years ago, all of humanity had the benefit of allowing, because we know that you can scrub and massage your memories and feel like this narrative thread of consistency comes out, right? So it's like, maybe somebody is racist back in the 1960s and now it's the 1980s, and they've evolved their perceptions, and they're able to massage their memories in such a way where they can sell themselves the line that it's like, well, I've never been racist and I've always blank. But then the only people who couldn't do that are people who had committed their thoughts, their genuine thoughts, to paper during that time, which basically meant, editorials, the press, a very, let's say, 0.01% of the populace was actually committing in a public way their thoughts about things in the press. And it feels like, as a result of social media, we're all in that clubhouse now, and we all have to cop to the things we actually said and did. And we're only just now having social media around long enough for us to look back and say, like, oh, the world has definitely changed. And I used this word for a transgender person 10 years ago, back before it was contextualized the way it is now, and before it meant what it means now. And I don't get to say, no, I never did that, or no, I never thought that, or no, I never said this thing, or whatever. But instead, my hope is that as a society, we learn to stop deciding or stop acting as though people are flash frozen, or as though they're one person consistently through their life, and instead say, yeah, that was a different guy. The world was a different place. And I would like to think that we get to a place where, we forgive people, or it's more culturally acceptable to just say, like, hey, man, I don't want to be judged with what I said and thought 10 years ago or 20 years ago or so on.
Thank you, Harvey Weinstein's defense attorney.
I mean,
no, yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's of course the slippery slope, right? Is that at some point, like, where do you draw that line?
Well, no, and the point is, your point is like, well, and you think, and that's right, where Weinstein did things that were bad, and we knew were bad and all that, but he used that. Well, it was a different time, women didn't have rights. Oh, no, I'm pretty sure they did, Harvey. But you're right. Is that if you've been at obscurity before. And that's one of the things now, is that you have, take, James Gunn, where he said things before he was with Disney that were clearly not Disney things. But also, he's a very active guy on Twitter. There's a reason why he got targeted, because he's, and exercising his right to free speech, but, became a lightning rod for things. Then it's like, well, look what you said here. And when nobody was really giving you the kind of attention that you have now. And now this, has that effect. And you think about how many people do we know, how many people in this podcast have said jokes in private that if somebody caught on video or tape right now and aired them, we'd be doing, the apology tour and like, no, really, Hitler was bad.
Jokes in public, jokes that are still on YouTube. Like, look, I've always known that if there was ever a point where I wind up working with another larger company, that I am one YouTube compilation away from no longer having that job, just based on the idea that, I've tried to spend the time on the internet being funny and be somebody that thoughtfully kind of went through a progression, however much I realized it going forward. But at the same time, the only thing that I would say that I personally use as my religious guiding light on it is to not deny, right? To understand that I've walked this path and I've made a choice to walk this path publicly. Number two, to understand that there are changing ideals and I have changed, but that means a commitment to understanding what that means and understanding why things are wrong and why people would think a certain way about them. And then beyond that, to let the chips fall where they may, and to just be kind to people, be understanding, listen to people if they are hurt, and do the best that you can, because I don't think that there's really much else that you can do. Like we are, I mean, geez, I went out of my way to create an awful paper trail of trying to do a comedy show on the internet that was recorded forever. but at least I went out of my way to do that as an adult. You know, at least I didn't grow up my entire life putting literally every thought I would have ever had on social media in a way that is probably more searchable than anybody wants to let on. Like, you know, I wrote a few things on a GeoCities site when I was in high school, but beyond that, everybody, this is going to be the rule, not the exception. That every awkward phase, we're seeing it now with, it's funny because athletics is one of those things where you go from high school to public figure really fast. You know, you go from sophomore year to now people are assigned, adults are assigned to cover your every move. And there's a reason why we see increasingly over the last 2 years, every one of these athletes, you know, that all of a sudden every crap tweet, every time you've quoted a rap lyric, every time you've repeated some joke that your idiot friend said, now is a gigantic.
Well, and we saw that when Trevor Noah took over the Daily Show, and it was like all of a sudden it's like, okay, now the spotlight goes on this, and let's see what the outrage engine demands.
Yeah, Tally Zarrell pointing out that I played an old stand-up CD of mine where I drop a word that I would not drop in common conversation anymore. And you know, despite I can go back and just dissect why I made the joke and what I was trying to get at and where my the point that I was trying to point it at it. But like, look, I was an inexperienced 19-year-old who there's a reason why I didn't continue my stand-up comedy career. I said something awful, and that's that.
So let me ask you a question. So let's say next week you get cast on, you know, the new ABC show, you know, Talking Lies, podcast, a family of podcasters, whatever, and you're the crazy, you know, you're the fun uncle, whatever character does the show. Great, you're hit. You're getting movie offers. Like, forget Charlie Day. Let's hire Justin Robert Young, right? Yeah. And then season 2 comes out. Hey, we just found this audio of Justin Robert Young saying horrible things in a comedy show. And all of a sudden, the usual suspects of blogs, the outrage machine is now against you.
Like, what do I do? Well, this would be my strategy. Number one, the only way to win.
Explain to me again why you said this about Finnish people.
The only way to win that kind of war is, in my opinion, to out talk it.
Yeah.
I think that you have to demonstrate the fact that you have thought about these things more than they have, and be willing to exhaust to a reasonable degree whatever you can of misinformed outrage, and then beyond that, you gotta take an ass kicking. Like you have to go, have the appropriate people explain why you were wrong. You have to show an open heart, and you have to try and have that be a part of you. You have to.
But they're telling Bob Iger to fire you. They're telling Bob Iger to fire you, and you know you're probably going to get fired.
Look, I'm saying this now. There's going to be a point where if I ever have an opportunity, I'm probably going to get fired from it. Like, I would understand and accept that this is an element of the fact that if we are still in the same phase of the moon that we are in right now, it's just gonna be a wrap if it catches momentum fast enough.
Well, I guess that's the point. Like, the apologies don't work. We've seen that, and there's the problem is there's a lumping in of, hey, here's an audio of somebody making some joke or reference to a friend that's kind of everybody probably said out of context, versus here's Michael Richards in a comedy club dealing with hecklers with the most hateful response you could possibly imagine, you know, yeah. And like you're now with him. It's like, wait a second, you know, this is an angry guy saying something that's just absolutely horrible versus, hey, I was on a stage in a comedy club doing things in a bit that everybody's cool with the bit in this time and day, and now I got to apologize for this thing.
I guess to me, the element of it that's important is not necessarily the apology as it is the recognition and understanding where you are, where you were, and where you're going to anybody that cares to understand context. Because you're right. There's no context to be given to the people that don't want to hear it. And there is no reasoning why. I think in terms of advanced media kung fu, there is the element of the only way to disarm media is to make them feel special, and there are things that you can do there. But other than that, if they want a scalp, they're going to try for a scalp, and whether or not it happens, it happens. I think that there are things behind the scenes, right? You can be a good employee to your employer. I would not be shocked if with the James Gunn firing, no matter how much I think it was a weird thing to happen, and however much he let himself down that path, that I'm going to take a guess that you don't get fired within 12 hours if you have a super perfect relationship with your employer. I think
where both of your emotional and career bank accounts are filled with trust and respect for one another.
Think if they love you as an employee, they probably give it the weekend to see how it plays on Monday. But beyond that, look, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. Now, where we weren't where we are now a year ago. Who knows where we're gonna be in a year from now? Who knows where we're gonna be in 2 years from now? It might get worse. It might get better. We don't know. Like, again, there is an element of the thing that that's happening right now, in my opinion, is that we have just realized the universe is indexable, and we are finding, and now there's enough stuff there that we can Dewey Decimal whatever the hell we want out of it, and we can create a great blog post with a bunch of screenshots, or we can create a great YouTube video with a bunch of clips. And the question is now, in a world where that is commonplace, how do we process it? And do we process it in a relatively minor infraction or with context more than we do without it? Who knows?
There was a let me see if I can find the article, but there was an article that went on and talked about people who had sort of been just kind of like, internet shamed for things they said, and just kind of like the consequences of that. Like they had like the whole thing, Justine Sacco, right?
Sure.
And you're like, man, that was a bad, horrible joke and a kind of a thing to say. And then you go like, was the response appropriate to that? It's like, I don't think so.
By the way, fantastic book. So You've Been Publicly Shamed.
That's where it's from.
By John Ronson is
that's where,
amazing.
And that's look, she got that because for one of the early times we got a racism mascot. Not only did we get a racism mascot, we got a racism mascot with a deadline, right? Like, that was the difference, the Alfred Hitchcock difference of surprise versus suspense, where it was like this wasn't just a thing that happened. That's surprise. This was a thing that happened, and we knew we could track her flight, and we there was a countdown clock to see what would happen by the time that she landed in Africa. And now it was a proof that Twitter was this live a moment where we could all gather and we could all feel excited that we gathered around a campfire, until we realized that the campfire was a human burning on a gigantic pile.
But it was like, what blog was it that was like, that was the thing, was when the blog started, it would just fuel the fire and kept.
It was Gawker.
What's that?
I believe it was Gawker. I remember it being Gawker, at least.
And that's part of it, is you have this like, it's like, and that was sort of the one of the criticisms of Gawker was sort of, it's like, sometimes they went after very public people, but sometimes, the brother of so and so. I'm like, this person's not public. Like, why are you? Because you don't care. And that was, and you look at, man, what this woman got put through, death threats, all this other stuff, and it's like, yeah, I get that tweet's an offensive sort of tweet, and it's the kind of thing that you hear people who would never describe themselves as being racist or inhumane, say 1,000 times, and you kind of be like, wait a second, this is, on one hand, you profess these ideals, and you just said this thing, and that's sort of, let's call these things sort of out to a degree, but like this woman got death threats, she got her photos, doxed, and the mob thought they were justified because the media's going to do what the media's going to do, but the media's are like, yeah, no, this is okay. This is a bad person. This is what we do to bad people. So let's shame them. Shame them.
Well, and look, the media was also, a monkey with a gun. I mean, to me, the
monkey with the gun, Justin Robert Young on the media.
Yeah, I mean, look, at that point, I mean, if we are to understand the blog revolution kind of starts in 2003 or 4, let's, just put a pin in it, right? I think that it is, the age of disco lasts until the lights come on with the Hulk Hogan trial, and you realize that there's a limit to it. Like this is like we can all do all the drugs we want and sleep with whoever we want until we realize that there are consequences, and at some point the music has to stop because now the power reigned there, in a way that it didn't initially in 2004. In 2004, it was, Matt Drudge and Little Green Footballs taking down the 60 Minutes memo and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, look, it's, David, and Goliath is the media, and Goliath is newspapers, and Goliath is television, and Goliath is all this. And then you realize, like, oh, no, wait. All that time that we were being faster, smarter, more profitable, now we're it. And old media is shedding and dying and doing everything else. And you can't just be the wild. Now, all of a sudden, that troll on Twitter that's calling Elon Musk all sorts of names, now they're a powerful person, and the rules change. The rules are constantly changing. We are in an era of tectonic shifting.
We are the product now, even for the media. We are the product, and one person's private embarrassment now becomes, big. And just that urge to police each other, but to kind of police each other in a way of like, I better yell at them before somebody notices what I did.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, I want to say, for the record, it's all there. Whenever I have something that can be taken away from me, you will know how to take it away. Please feel free. Put together the compilation now, just so you can have it for when you can take something away from me. Until then, patreon.com/JURY, patreon.com/Jury Daily, patreon.com/Weird Things, and patreon.com/Night Attack. Because that's Justin, how I pay my bills.
I already got that dossier ready. I've already got it done. That's done.
Yeah.
You know what I hate? People who listen to audiobooks and thinks it counts as reading.
Hey man, I got a pick. You guys want to do some quick picks?
Yeah, I don't mean that, everybody. I love audiobooks.
I finally gave in to the entire world. And guess what? The entire world was right. And The Good Place is an amazing show. It's just amazing. It's great. It looks like one thing, and then the longer you watch, the smarter it gets, and it's just a blast and a joy. And I'm halfway through the second season right now. It's all on Netflix. If you have read a lot of thought experiment stuff, you're going to recognize a lot of the territory they explore about the human condition, about moral philosophy. It's a blast. I love everything about it.
Cool.
I'm going to guess you guys have not seen it.
I have not seen it. I love everybody involved in it, and I liked Parks and Rec and The Office, and that's Michael Schur's one of those dudes.
Ted Danson is particularly a joy to watch in this role. It might be my favorite Ted Danson role of all time.
What finally got you to watch it? Because I know season 2 just came out on Netflix, so I don't know if it was a recommendation thing.
You know what it was we went out to Hollywood. Where casual name drop, I had sushi next to Bob Odenkirk. And then we finished our pitches out there, and suddenly it was like, I don't know, I wasn't in the mood to do anything. Getting ready to doing a round of pitches, you got to psych yourself up so you can project a phony version of yourself to a town full of phonies based on phony land and
Hey, I
try
live
to
in phony land.
try to out phony everyone else, and then in the
you
moment
had a TV show already.
I know. Look, and it was this emotionally distressing last time too. But and then it's over, and then you just want to you just have nothing emotionally. So I just went back to the room, and I didn't want to do any of the things that I normally do, and then for whatever reason, just I was like, fine, I'll watch The Good Place, and then flash forward to 3 hours later, I'm like, this show's great. Everything about this is great. I'm happy.
It's like
Hollywood isn't phony land.
It's Gollum.
Yeah.
Like, fine, I'll watch it. Like,
yes, exactly.
And it looks like season 3 comes in like 2 weeks or so.
Dude, I'm so excited. So great.
That's very cool.
My pick, it remains The Making of the President, 1960. I found out this. Hubert Humphrey invented the phrase, there are 3 types of politics, which I thought that I had invented with my show, Politics. As it turns out, he beat me to it by about 70 years. So big shout out to Hubert Humphrey.
Wait, making the exact same joke?
No. He said, God, I'm going to have to memorize this. But there are 3 politics: the politics of business, the politics of party, and the politics of something else. But I'm not for any of them. I'm for the politics of the people, which would theoretically be a 4th kinds of politics. But, listen, who's counting?
I have a pick. So in keeping with my video game pick from Weird Things today, on the Switch, this just came out, but this has been on PC for a little while. It's a mini tactics game called Into the Breach. This is from the same people who made FTL a few years ago.
Oh yeah,
which was a real-time sort of
ship organizational game.
Yeah, and so this is very similar. You do these sort of mini tactical battles on these 8x8 grids. As you are trying to defeat this alien force from invading the planet. And the whole conceit is that you and your Space Force are time travelers. Or no, is it time travelers? You can jump between different timelines, and so your goal is to go through all of the various timelines and save the planet, thousands and thousands of times from this evil force. And it's really nice because it's a very simple tactics game to get into. But it's also very short. You're playing on these very small maps, and they only last, 5 or so turns. But they're really dense. You have your own loadouts, but then the enemies have certain moves, and so you can always see what the enemies are going to do next move. And that makes your goal every turn to push them around or stop them, block them, whatever. It becomes like chess-like in that it's not just like trying to predict what your enemy will do, but knowing exactly what they're going to do, and dealing with it every turn. I really recommend it, and it's out now on Switch. The Switch version is pretty good also.
I got a pick actually, and I'll probably use it again on Weird Things Night because it's a really cool. So I'm lazy. I kind of sit around doing nothing a lot, and I like to walk at night. But if I don't get a walk at night, it kind of throws everything out the window. And I went and I bought one of those exercise bikes with a desk on it. I bought one that wasn't that expensive just to see, did I use it and I like it? And when I did use it, I liked it. So then I decided to get one that was a little nicer, but not that too expensive comparatively. I got the FlexiSpot V9, the FlexiSpot V9. And what's cool about this, it's an exercise bike. It's got a desk, so you can put a computer on it. You can work on it. And it's compact. It doesn't take up a lot of space. It kind of can fold up pretty well. And it also works as a standing desk. So you can slide the top part over and just lean in and just use it like a standing desk. And if you show some of the other photos there, you can see it is really compact as far as how it folds down, and it's on wheels, so it just slides away. If you're looking at it here, it's nice. It's not a bunch of it looks kind of like Apple made an exercise bike. And so you've got the wheels, you can pull it, you have to, a little work to retract them if you want to pull it in, but you could fold this thing up and you could fit it inside of a closet easily if you needed to put it away.
Oh,
so
wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, puts together in 1 minute. What's that?
That's rad. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it doesn't look bad at all. And like I said, it works as a standing desk. So that's the other part of it too, is that you can, if you want to stand and work, you can use this, and it's, helpful. And That. So Flexi Sport, the version 9, it's $400, which, pricey, but not as pricey as those things normally can get. And if you're looking for like, hey, I'll just put my computer here or whatever for, I've got a video projector in here where I can just sit it down and watch something for 20 minutes or whatever like that, and the time flies.
Yeah, because, you're basically getting a recumbent bike and also a desk. So
yeah, and it doesn't look bad at all. It doesn't look bad at all. It looks. I had another one which I just gave away to somebody. They lived like a block away, and I said, "Oh, you need to bring your car." And this woman shows up, and she has this tiny little wheeled cart. I'm like, "It's not going to carry it." I ended up carrying the other one down the street for them. It's like an 80-pound thing, and I'm like, so, and I gave it away too. Like just, anyhow. All right, it's been weird, but it's been after 2.
Boom.
Very cool.
Boom.
Good shows. You got any shows coming up later today, Justin?
No.
Nice.
I am not on DTNS, and my Mondays are hereby clear. So I am got some Landry.
Yeah.
And then I got a bunch of other stuff that I need to catch up on. But
nice. We'll be back in a little over 2 hours. 3 hours? 2 hours with Cord Killers. Same channel. You got anything coming up, Andrew? You doing any more live streams? Are you doing as many Facebook live streams?
I haven't done. I gave up on the Facebook one because Facebook. I should be doing more live streams. I've been.
Are you done with Facebook? Are you?
I'm done until I'm not. I just it's one of these platforms that it's just, to me, it's been every time. They don't make it easy to love them. If you're a content creator, and I don't want to really do anything to build up an audience there. And I thought the Facebook video, they just changed the paradigm, how the algorithm worked in the middle of it, and I'm like, no, thank you. And so, I don't. So then just.
It really is astonishing. That we could go another hour on just like Facebook. What are you doing, man?
Well, you've seen the dropping, the attrition rates from Facebook.
Oh no, I haven't. Are they extreme?
Oh yeah, it is. It has been like the percentage of adults that don't have deleted the app. People don't use it anymore. No, and what compensates that is the people who do use it even more, and they get even pulled more into the web. And a lot of people are like, well, screw you, Facebook. I'm going to this place called Instagram. And I'm like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
Welcome to Facebook. But there is a drop. Younger people, and like I know I'm missing out on a lot of things. I have a lot of people like, oh, it was on the Facebook group. I'm like, I don't get. Oh, you don't do. I'm like no, and I've been doing almost no social media. So,
I deleted the Facebook app off my phone, and it has been a tremendous
bliss. You don't have to get reminded about how you became friends with someone a few years ago.
But every once in a while, I realize how many times I've created an account with something by authenticating through Facebook. So it'll send me like, oh, well, you have to do it through Facebook because that's what your account is. And I'm like, aha, I got you. You might want me to have the phone because it's so easy. If I have the phone, it'll just bounce over to the Facebook app and then bounce right back to here. But I will go through the extra step of remembering my Facebook login. So in your little web browser, I'll enter in my login. And Facebook says, haha, now, because we don't recognize where you're from, please go to the Facebook app to have the number generator so we can create a secure login. And I'm like, you son of a... So I have downloaded the Facebook app, gotten their stupid number, and then deleted it probably a dozen times. Various different apps.
I keep... That's why I keep the Facebook app on my iPad, because occasionally I will need that code generator. But I just go into the iPhone settings and disable... say, no, you cannot send me any notifications.
It really is, man. I wouldn't be surprised if and this sounds outlandish and over the top, but it's like, I wouldn't be terribly surprised if 20 years from now, studies show that Facebook really is a form of informational cancer. Like they can point to economic and overall mental health distresses that come from the result of essentially eating candy all day and thinking that this is a healthy intellectual diet.
Brian, I think the evidence against eating candy all day isn't very conclusive, so let's not disparage some people's lifestyles.
Fair enough.
I think that I think that we're going to find out. It's like many things, with certain personality types, it becomes this, and you look at the people who, some of your obsessives on there, and you're like, oh my God, this is, the need for attention and narcissism and these other things like this. It just becomes this, cycle that just gets out of control. And, how many times have I talked to friends like, oh, how's the book coming? I haven't written. I'm like, and this is from like 2 years ago, like, you post on Facebook regularly. Oh, it's building my brand, I'm like, no, it's an excuse. You're not writing. You're just going there because it's easy to do that. You feel like you got to comment on everything because your opinions are so important. And you're going to set the internet straight.
Yep.
No, they can't do that. That's my job.
My job, yes.
All right.
Well,
we
We did it, boys. We fixed Facebook.
Yay. Yeah.
Also, last second, thank you, Jared Jensen, for subscribing right at the end of our stream.
Right
We'll be back with
on.
Cord Killers in a couple hours, though. Bye, everybody.
Bye.